Hello, and welcome to You Don't Need 10. So, welcome back if you've been here before. Welcome if you are new. If you are new, You Don't Need 10 was started as a book, and then in the fall of 2021, I started writing some blog posts. I felt like I wasn't necessarily done sharing our story, and writing and publishing a book is insane and expensive, and I just felt like these could be little short stories, kind of journal format, which is, how they've always been, how I journaled when I was a teenager, and how the book came about. Those were journal entries that became a book. And anyway, here we are onto the blog. In April of this year, I decided to try something new. There'd been some feedback that people would rather listen than read, so I thought I'd try these audio recordings. So I am not certain on how many audio recordings I have in a row, but this is blog post. I'm pretty certain it's blog post number 142. I should have looked that up. But for 142 weeks in a row on a Tuesday, there's been a new blog post. And since April of 2024, those blog posts have become audio recordings. And I am going back in time to blog post number 1 and starting over. And I think I'm at 11 or 12 on the old versions. But anyway, today, blog post number 142 is called Lifts, and it was posted to the youdon'tneed10.com website on May 28th of 2024. Over the years, and as recently as a couple weeks ago, I've talked about dance. I've talked about what it has meant for Paisley, how amazing the studio owners are, how we started, what's involved, etc. Today I'm bringing it up again and telling a story, so some of it may be a repeat for you, but I promise the whole story is worth the read to the very end. Dance for Paisley started with the Petite Combo class in the fall of 2014. She would have been 3 years old. It was kind of a disaster. It was one of her first introductions to the outside world, outside of family, friends, church, daycare, etc. It was her first activity. It was the first group setting. It was one of the first encounters with other kids and armed comments. If you've read the book I wrote then, then you are familiar with some of this story. One positive note, we made a new friend, someone that Paisley considers a friend now. They talk daily at school, have classes together, eat lunch together every day, and talk some outside of school. The mom and I have a casual relationship where we know each other, follow each other socially, and we'll talk about parenting things like cell phones. There's a break from dance class that fall after an episode in class, and Paisley doesn't return until I think January of 2016. Her cousin invited her to go back with her, and it's been game on ever since. A few years ago, she decided she wanted to go to dance tryouts to try out for a competition team. She went to all the suggested classes and tryout days, but in the end did not make a team that summer. The next year, she wanted to try out again. She again went to all the suggested classes and the tryout days and made a pre-competition team. Pre-comp teams are a great introduction into what competition is going to be like. That first year, she attended one dance competition in Sydney, Montana, and went to all the required pre-comp classes where they worked on skills. That team is a stepping stone to competition. You need to work on your splits, fine-tuning your skills, timing, etc. The summer after her first pre-comp season, she wanted to try out again. That summer, she again made a pre-comp team. The studio does a great job of communicating and tries to make everyone feel amazing and feel like they are where they are supposed to be. The paragraph below, and I will read it for you, is what is sent out to the parents with the competition numbers of which team you are on. The tryout list that comes out doesn't have names on it. It just lists your tryout number. This is what the studio says in that email. If you did not make a team or are disappointed in your results, remember that there are so many factors that go into what makes up our competition teams. The list of requirements, focus in class, ability to pick up choreography, work ethic, etc. These are things that we see in class that you might not necessarily see at home when your child is dancing. As the teams advance each year, it makes it harder and harder to make a team. Dancers need to be close to the same level as dancers their age already on the competition team. If you did not make a team, we encourage you to continue to take recreational classes focusing in ballet, technique, jazz, and lyrical. Please remember that pre-comp is a great place to be. These dancers have been improving so much, and it is a great way to spend a few years prepping and working before making a competition team. It is totally normal to remain on a pre-comp team for a few years until your skills are at the level for the competition team. The most important thing is that you continue to put in the work. It'll pay off. Being on a competition team is only a small factor into what makes a dancer grow. The work they put in inside and outside the studio is the largest factor in what makes a dancer grow. Don't base your growth or compare your growth to other dancers. Each dancer has their own timeline. So, like she said, it's perfectly normal to be on a pre-comp team for multiple years. Paisley was not disappointed that year. She was happy to make a team at all. She knows what it feels like to not make one. She put in a lot of hard work that year. She attended a convention in the fall in Bismarck, and her pre-comp team had 2 competitions that year, Rapid City and Sydney. She continued to take all the required classes as well as some rec classes. Last summer, I was nervous. I didn't know how many years you could be on a pre-comp team or how the ages work. When you enter a competition, I knew the age bracket they had been in was 9 to 11. I didn't know if that was averages or if there was an older one. I know both years she was on the pre-comp team, she was not the oldest. At least 2 or 3 of the girls were older than her. I had no clue if you aged out or how it worked, but I also knew Paisley had been working hard. If you read last week, you know she has grit in her DNA. Last summer, she again wanted to try out, and I was so nervous for her. I knew she wasn't a little girl, so she probably wouldn't make the mini team, which is sometimes the first step for a lot of girls. But like the owner said, you can't compare yourself or your dancing to anyone else, and age is not a factor, it's ability. If you've been following us all along, then you know that we were on pins and needles until we found out. Russell and I were at an anniversary party when the email came, and I called Paisley immediately and cried on the phone with her and continued to cry in the bathroom on the phone with her for a bit. If you've read last week or some of the other posts over the years, you know my response to anything good, bad, happy, sad is to cry, and this was proud. I was so incredibly proud of her for making the team she made. There was a new set of minis. The minis from the previous year, a lot of them had moved up to juniors. A lot of the juniors from the previous year moved to junior elite, and that is the team that Paisley made. A lot of them, but not all of them, had been on a competition team before, or for multiple years. Some of them, at least one other one, had come from a pre-comp team just like Paisley. A lot of the junior elites from before made teens and on up the line seniors and senior elites. There's so much that goes into all of this, and I think this studio does a phenomenal job. After the teams are set, there's a couple-week break, and then it's game on. Lots of technique and choreography and ballet classes, lots of hours of practicing, especially those first few weeks, and in August, they can go several hours a day. And then when school starts up, it's about 6 to 8 hours in a week, plus some Saturdays and later evenings. I have yet to figure out if the owners have ideas about dancers or songs or somewhat of a plan when they do tryouts, or if after they get a team, they start looking at them, height, age, ability, etc. It doesn't matter. This year, one of the dances Paisley's team completed was choreographed by guest choreographers, or at least The guests were consulted, and they spent a weekend together last fall. The dances they get competed are involved. There's a lot of time that gets put into getting them just right. And of course, they want them to score high. So there might be a flip or a lift or something in them for some added action or attention. Paisley's team competed a lyrical, a jazz, half line, which is them and the juniors doing a dance together, and production, which is all 6 teams dancing a dance together. In the printed programs over the competition season, production has listed, I think, 58 girls participating in that one called JLo. It's pretty cool, and if you're available this Saturday, June 1st in Williston, you should check that one out. If nothing else, it's pretty amazing what these owners can come up with. Classes started last August with basics, learning what song would be for each dance and then learning the choreography. It's a long process, and maybe some of the choreography gets added or changed along the way. I'm not in there for any of this, so it's just put together from the bits and pieces I get from Paisley. Initially, Halfline had Paisley and another girl doing a move and together lifting another girl. So Paisley and another girl are together lifting another girl. That girl that gets lifted had some commentary about the situation. I have no clue how much was said or how often, but it became apparent to Paisley that the girl that gets lifted in the air was not impressed with Paisley being one of the lifters, did not think she could handle it because she didn't have 2 full arms with hands. I could not wait to see how this ended up. I could not wait to see the dances performed and see how it would go. My daughter had at least once had bad feelings about this. I had tried not to bring it up or talk about it at all. I just told her to do her best all the time. That's all you can do. I did not want to encourage those thoughts or those feelings, as I am trying to teach her that being part of this company, every one of those competition girls is essentially on your team. Whether they are on the junior elite team or not, you are all one team. And a team is stronger together, not pulled apart. Thomas Reed's saying, a chain is no stronger than its weakest link, also known as you're only as strong as your weakest link, is so true. So build each other up and encourage each other. Fast forward to competition season beginning, and the first competition was in Rapid City the first weekend in March. I watched all 4 dances and never saw the part where Paisley and another girl lift a girl together, and never saw the girl that had complained get lifted by Paisley. Now I was confused. Paisley actually had a couple lifts by herself where she lifts another girl by herself, and it wasn't the girl she had mentioned. I didn't say anything that weekend, but eventually my curiosity got the best of me and I asked her about it. The response she gave me was when the guest choreographers came last fall to finish the choreography for their dances and perfect them, those guests had switched the choreography and that part had been taken out. So there was no drama involved. It was simply switched by people that had no clue there had even been an issue. Perfect. Dance competitions have a judges table in front of whatever stage they have set up, and the judges sit there and watch every dance. It appears to be 3 judges at each competition, and they appear to be different at every competition. And they don't appear to be local to whatever town we are in. They all appear to have flown in from somewhere. I realize there's lots of guessing from me going on in the details of the judges. During the competitions, though, they talk into a microphone, I think, pretty much the entire time. So while a group is performing, they are talking constantly into their microphones and recording their critiques. And later, after the competitions are over, those recordings get played to the dancers during their next classes at home. The critiques can range from that girl in the back appears to be off a step to everyone doesn't know what they're doing to that was great, etc. They can be harsh, but they're meant to be helpful. After one of the competitions this year, I can't seem to remember which one, Paisley came home from dance practice super happy and upbeat and said, "Mom, you know the one judge?" And then she gives his name, which meant nothing to me. And then she described him and told me about him. Anyway, he apparently is super strict. Mom, he said our lift was great. Paisley has 2 dances that she has a solo lift in, one on Halfline and one on her team's Lyrical, so I asked her which one. She told me. Then she said the strict judge said, good partnership, the lift was great. In the end, it all worked out. She lifted another girl that trusted her, and it came through to the judge that they worked well together. They got a nod from a judge, and that overshadowed everything else. In the end, it was happily ever after. So, thank you for listening to blog post number 142.